You guys won't be able to see them very well, but it actually worked out pretty nice. Basically, I got a couple little spots where it's time to drill. All I did was just line up those holes, drill the holes, and then go ahead and put those little clips in, and it's ready to go. Next thing we're gonna do is pop out these fog lights and upgrade that. So we got new, cool, smoked out fog lights. We're gonna do that. So all you gotta do is come over here, and on the back of these, you could do this with the bumper on, but since I already have the bumper off, it makes it nice and easy. There's these little tabs right here. You just kind of push in, and then there's another one on the other side. I'll get this out. It's hard to do with one hand. So basically loosen that little notch on that side, notch on this side. This comes loose, so you can just pop this through. So we're gonna do this. So we got the old fog light right here, all hazy. There's still plenty of life left in this guy. He'll probably find a new home in a Tacoma somewhere else. And then you got this new one. And let's peel this plastic off. Ugh. And then this guy just pops right in. So I'm just gonna feed this through right here, just like so. And then just these edges. There we go. So we've got that lined up, and then you just push. Come on. All right. As they say, out with the old dust gun, in with the new. All right, take one. Alright, so pretty much all my holes line up. There's a little bit of tweaking that I gotta do down here in this bottom corner. Other than that though, I'm thinking this is pretty much ready to get back in place. So I gotta take off a couple of screws to kind of get everything matching right here. So I ran into some trouble, as you see right there. This bracket, he's supposed to be more square than he is. He's kind of at like a 45-degree angle towards me. But what it should look like is if we come over here, that's what it should look like. He should be like an L. And so I gotta bend that out and see if we can straighten that bracket. Here's a better look with that piece off. This is supposed to actually be bent pretty much at a 90-degree angle this way. And so this whole thing got pushed in. So if we can straighten this out, we might be able to get everything to line up. If not, we'll have to get a new piece right there, which kind of stinks. Alright, so let me move you guys over here. So what I've done so far is I got this bracket loose so that this, because this has actually got pushed in, so this needs to actually be more out. And so we're gonna try to see if we can get this position right where it needs to be. If this got bent and broken, we'll have to end up getting a new piece, or just try to see if we can kind of get it close enough to where everything lines up and I can tighten it all down and it'll be okay. But most importantly, this bracket right here, we've got to get this bracket back from being this direction, and it needs to be more out this direction. So I'll be working on that. All right, as you guys can see, I got that bracket bent, and it's nice and almost perfectly at a 90. Had to do some maneuvering there, but all my holes pretty much line up just right. A little bit of a couple centimeters that I got to maneuver, but I got that bracket to work. Luckily, I mean, this bracket is pretty cheap, but it's more of a headache right now to order it and wait before we can move forward with everything. So if we can get everything to fit just right, I think we're in business. So you guys didn't miss much. All I did was tighten this up, so this isn't going anywhere. Bracket's in place, everything's good. You know, there's a couple little body gaps, but that's okay, that's to be expected. It wasn't quite dry fitted, and we didn't do any Bondo or any body work type things. It's just pretty much drop in, replacement, and move forward. So next up, get these headlights in, and we'll do that. All right, now that we got pretty much that fender back in place, so all we need to do now is we just need to get these headlights set up. We're gonna switch over all the old bulbs and everything. This guy's a little different just because he's got the little weatherproofing grommet on there. I can just kind of wiggle this off. He's got this little clip that holds him in place. So we'll pop him out, like so. I'll drop this guy in here. So this was a pain in the butt. Basically what I had to do is end up bending this little retaining pin just to get it under this little neck, and then it latched right into place. So now you can actually make sure this is snug as a bug in a rug, and we're in business. What a pain. Not a fan. And then we just got one more to put back in. So we'll rotate this little dude around. Grab this last guy, last little bulb. Pop this guy in place. Snug, snug, snug. And then we're just gonna repeat the same thing on that other side. Easy. All right, so I'm gonna start with the good headlight, the side that I know nothing really happened to. And these are pretty straightforward. And luckily these connectors, they only go in one place. All right. So I think this one's just about where he's supposed to live. Have to do some maneuvering around here, but I think he's sitting pretty. So we can go ahead and snug him down in a little bit. So we got him in there. For some reason, the fitment on these isn't as flush as the stock ones. Everything is pretty much lined up right where it needs to be, but for some reason, these just don't sit quite right. So once everything tightens up, maybe it'll all line up pretty good. So I'll go ahead and get that snug down. BRB. Now for the real fun, we got to do this side, which is the side that was hit. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have to hope everything lines up quite right. If not, we'll have to make some adjustments. But fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. So that actually went better than I thought it was. So that's in there. I'm gonna snug everything down, and yeah, we can start moving forward. Nice. All right, got the headlights mounted in. Tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of fitment issues right there. That's to be expected when you have an aftermarket fender, aftermarket headlights. Sometimes things don't line up quite right. So this side, everything looks good. You'll see that this is perfectly flush, but that's because you have OEM fender with aftermarket headlights, so the measurements are pretty much spot on. Everything looks good so far, and we're ready to keep moving forward. So the next thing that I want to do is get this bumper on and see how that looks. All right, so rough fit, everything's mostly in place and looking all right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to start snugging down a couple of these and then kind of get a dry fit of how things are before I snug it down. But so far, everything is pretty much where I need it to be. We're gonna have some issues with some gaps along here, This might rub just a little bit, so I might have to tilt this bumper down. But I think I can get everything to line up just right. And we'll deal with all this later on with some touch-up paint. But for now, I'm thinking we just start moving forward and getting some bolts tightened down. So I got everything there. I got these little eyebrows that are, I underlid, whatever things these are. Put these on place. And then we can keep moving forward with all this. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up a couple more screws under the bumper, and then we'll move up top and continue forward with all that good stuff. Last thing that we gotta do is we're gonna get the grill back in place. I do have to get the fender liner for this passenger side back in place, as well as the mud flap. So I'm gonna do that later on, but that's really boring stuff, nothing really cool to see there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this grill back in place, which luckily the brackets that broke off on the old grill are attached to the old headlights, so we no longer need those, and now we have really nice new solid mounting points. I went ahead and I did switch over to the Toyota emblem. It's really easy, it just snaps in, so that makes things pretty good. And this just has a couple little retaining pins, so you just kind of slide this and lock it into place. And then this just kind of locks in. Snap, snap, snap. And then just a couple screws in the front, and I'll tighten those up real quick. Get some of these little pins back in.
Here's the final little lowdown on the Taco. After this I did some touch-up paint, but without that bracket we are going to have a little bit of a gap, but everyone's okay with it, so here's the final product.